Hello, everybody. This is Brian from Breaking Down Security. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody that Hack in the Box is still going on. I believe tickets are still available for that. And also, just before we went to recording this week to put out the recording, B-Sides London hit me up on email and said, hey, our call for presentations is going on. It's open starting today, 14 February, when I put this out, and will close on 27 March 2017. So if you are looking to go to London, England, which is fairly cool city, and you want to do a paper there, do a talk, please do so. Actually, the call for workshops is open as well. They're accepting submissions until 5 May 2017. So I'm meaning to put this out couple weeks in the future when I was on vacation, but due to the time sensitive nature of what Mr. Douglas is working on, I thought it would be better to put it out this week so that he can get maximum exposure to his project, which we'll hear about later on in the show. So there's a link in the show notes to the Google Doc that he's working on right now. Please feel free to make comments. And I think that's it. On with the show. This is Breaking Down Security, and I am Brian Brake. Welcome back, listener. This is Brian, Ms. Berlin, and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
I've started introducing Miss Berlin first because it's ladies.
I noticed.
Ladies first. A beauty for age, that kind of thing.
So shouldn't I come before you two, or no?
Wow, it's going to start coming to that point, isn't it? Yeah. It's the Amanda Berlin Show, starring Amanda Berlin, catered by Amanda Berlin. She's the new Tyler Perry of the InfoSec world here.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, when this comes out, I'm going to be sucking down drinks on a beach in Maui. So that'll be nice. I'm going on vacation, man. I'm sorry. I am on vacation, man. So yeah. It's gonna be a nice change of pace after this snow we've had. So, all right. Well, enough of the chitter chatter. We're gonna bring our guest on. He's been sitting in the green room long enough, eating our pretzels and our pralines, which he ate all of them. So. He's been on the show before. Always a great, entertaining talk. I'll put a link to his previous show in our show notes if you'd like. Mick Douglas, welcome back.
Hey, great to be back.
Well, I don't know, man. I heard you're now a dirty salesperson.
Well, only partially a salesperson.
No, we talked about this for the show. It's a compliance thing. You're either pass or fail, 1 or 0.
I feel like we should we're all salespeople though, right?
Are we?
Like we have to. I feel like a little bit.
Okay. All right. I grant you that, but I mean, yeah. Okay. So, Mick,
Amanda's got my back.
Let's give
your argument is invalid.
So Mick works for a company that does stuff,
as opposed to one that doesn't do stuff.
Well, you're sucking up to him with your BS shirt there.
There are companies that don't, though.
Yeah, they don't do anything. They just make money.
They do nothing.
Yeah. So he works for Dave Kennedy over there. We've had Dave Kennedy on, too, talking about BDS, which is binary defense. That's the blue team side, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so Trusted Sec was the first company that Dave founded, and they're pen testing and security contracting type stuff. They also have a GRC group. And they also do incident response. And then Binary Defense is the second company, and we're a full services MSSP, the blue team, the defenders. Mm-hmm. So we do threat intel, we do managed SOC, we also will assist with IR, and we have our own endpoint protection tool called Vision, which is a pretty fun one.
Okay, all right, enough with your sales pitch.
Yeah, you can tell that I drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh my goodness. You've got your script right there in your decision trees, don't you? Right there on your keyboard and stuff. yeah, if he says this, say to citizen tree A, do that one. Yeah. So, okay, part of the reason we wanted to have you on was we wanted to talk about the sales stuff. I'm sure this is something that everybody comes in contact with. We've actually had a couple of people on our Slack channel, and unfortunately he hasn't been back on for a while, but his name was Fernando. He's a sales guy. He's, I think he got unhappy because I was a little down on the salespeople, but, and warning, this might get a little ranty, but we wanted to discuss with somebody who does sales in a safe environment why they do what they do and how we can kind of cut through the cruft and the crap and understand what's going on with that. Now, how long have you been doing sales, Mick? It must be like going on about 80 years now. What is it?
No, actually, I cut over to sales around July of last year is when I did that.
And you've been formally trained in the arts of sales.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, I didn't go to like Sales U or anything like that, but, there is a lot of, one thing that I will say this is I was surprised at how much more maturity and process there can be around the whole discipline of doing sales and how you learn to see if a particular prospect is worth really even spending much time on. Because, if it's not going to be a good fit, don't bother them and save your time and move on to somebody else who would be a better fit. It's kind of cool seeing the other side of the table, to be honest. But it's also kind of weird too, because you guys have been kind of ragging on sales folks for the past couple shows, and that's all right, because I'll be honest, I've been at some sales conferences and other things where it was very high cringe factor. And I guess the thing that my big aha that I had probably in September of last year, shortly before DerbyCon, is that not all salespeople are equal. Just kind of like how, to be sure, there are, quote unquote hackers that are, in mom's basement that are guzzling the Mountain Dew and scarfing the Hot Pockets, but that's not what our community is, just, right? It's a much bigger and richer community than that. But to be sure, there's salespeople that are those used car salesmen that are like, hey, compliance plots 5,000, buy this thing and all your check boxes will be cyber free. And that crowd really does a disservice to the folks that are looking more for a partnership. Another thing to point out too is the kind of salespeople that you're going to see will differ based off of what service or product the company is selling. Like, I work at an MSSP. That's a long-term relationship. We don't want that to be a case of where people ever get, that icky feeling of like, I'm dealing with a snake oil sleaze kind of, it's more of a relationship. And so it is different.
Yeah.
But they're definitely out there.
That bitter aftertaste where you buy something and then you go home and you're like, damn, did I just get taken? Did I just buy something and pay double the price and just get taken by a sleazy salesman who has read the book, Influence, right? I don't know. I think every salesman has read it, because I did. And then I'm like, oh, he used that technique, or, that kind of thing. And,
okay, you're going to have to send us an Amazon link to that, because I hate to do like defensive security, but we're going to have a list of books, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Influence by Cal Donnie.
I'll
it's
type.
A great read.
So you read that book too,
so you have read it.
Mr. Betcher?
Yeah. So I read that years ago when I was doing a lot more of social engineering. It's a really good primer on how to basically engage people in a way such that you're influencing them and making them feel like they're making suggestions, but you're kind of priming the pump, as it were. It's a real, it can be very subtle or overt, but when employed correctly, it's really effective. And I'll be honest, like one of the things that I find really shocking, I don't see it used often, but when I do catch it, it's one of those jaw-dropping moments. There's a vendor that will remain nameless that was a couple booths away from us at a smaller conference, and one of the salespeople was doing neuro-linguistic programming, where they were actually like using phrases in a way that was implanting, or at least attempting to implant suggestions. And one of the things that I actually like almost broke out in applause when they were doing this is they were like iterating through here's the different factors and features that this tool has. And as they're summing up, they say, by now you see that this is a good product. And I was like, oh, you dirty bastard. So like there's some really interesting folks out there that are using some of the tricks that we think are, in our wheelhouse that aren't just in our toolkit.
Well, that does make sense that sales would be somewhat in the way of social engineering if you're having to, make a hard sell, if you're, because they do that. I mean, do you guys have quotas? Yes? No? Maybe?
So I'm sure there are. My role is sales engineering, so basically like sales support, and that's not my like full-time role, even though I've got the little bit of sales taint on me, so therefore I'm totally sales, according to you. What? So I don't have quotas per se, but I help out like when people have like technical questions or they want to know like, can we do X, Y, Z, or what would be a good fit given these parameters that we're trying to operate in.
Okay. All right. So before we had the show, Miss Amanda also mentioned that she's been a dirty salesperson at times as well for her company. What is a lot of what he said echoed at your organization too?
Totally about the whole relationship partnership thing. So when you're talking about that, Mick, the only thing I can think of is, just like any other relationship you have in your life, whether it's like a romantic relationship or one with your friends or your family or whatever, there are so many different types of relationship, and you get all of that being in an MSSP also, right? You have the really healthy, strong relationships where they're, your customer and you are working in sync. You can tell where all the gaps are, and you work together to overcome all of that stuff. They give you good ideas, you give them, your feedback and what you think they could do in their environment. And then there are the customers that are doing it just for the checkbox.
Mm-hmm.
And while when our, like, I really don't do anything. I said we do all kind of do sales, right? So, you have to believe in the product that you're working with. And mm-hmm. I think the sales kind of just goes along with it.
Okay. That's another thing I was thinking about. Does it require you to believe in the product you're selling, or is it just like you can throw anything over because I have been in vendor
it depends on the person.
Really?
I think it depends. Yeah, I mean, I would not be comfortable selling anything or working with anything that I don't believe in, because I will straight up tell the customer that it's shit.
Yeah, but if you make that sale, you get what, a $5,000 commission.
Well, I've never worked on commission either.
It depends on the person, right? So, and how they're being incentivized. I have a commission structure at my role, but it's not the majority of my pay. So, it's nice to get a commission check, and I'm always gonna want to have a bigger commission check. But if it's a matter of me like trying to deceive a potential customer to make the sale, it's not economically viable really for me to do that.
Here, let me turn off the recording and you can tell me really what you're thinking there, Mick. I'll sell ice to Eskimos, man.
So when you say not economically viable, what? Okay.
Well, so everybody's got, here's the thing. No matter what somebody says, everybody has a price at which they will go unethical.
Sure.
They really will.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just a matter of, are you getting paid primarily in commission and you have a very, very low base salary, or maybe not even any base salary, there's a couple of I don't know any security companies that do this, but I do know some of the very big business automation tools. They don't use, you don't get a base salary, and you might make 2-3 sales a year, and you're making, couple $100,000 for that year, because that's such a big product, and the commission on that, even though it's a percentage, it's such a big sale that you're making serious coin.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I mean, if you're a salesperson and are you insulated from like the development side? So do you actually see what's going on with the developers that the product that you're touting? Because yeah. I mean, it's almost like working at McDonald's,
What?
McDonald's, when you go to McDonald's...
Where are you going with this, sir?
When you go to McDonald's, you get a product, and it looks really, really great. You see the commercials, and, you got the perfectly formed Big Mac and stuff. When you've worked behind the counter, you get to see what really goes on. And all I dropped that one on the floor, but that's okay. We'll just put that right back on the bun. You get to see, the junk code and the missed deadlines and the patches and what we're putting together. Do most companies insulate their salespeople from that kind of stuff, where they don't get to see how the burger's actually made? They just give you the burger?
Well, so I don't know. I can only speak for how it is here at BDS. I see the burger being made. Okay. The developers are actually just the floor above from where I'm sitting right now as we talk. And I actually hung out in their office a little bit today, and we'll have probably a good chunk of the afternoon tomorrow with them. So I don't know if that's a function of just how like Dave Kennedy operates, or if it's because we're a smaller company, but there's a lot more transparency on how this tool works, what it does, and where the warts are. I mean, one of the things that we get a lot of credibility, and I'm not the only one at BDS who does this, but we have had potential clients that say, hey, we need, this sort of an engagement. And we're like, yeah, we don't do that. Here's some companies that do. And like, it's wild because you can see these people going like, wait, what? Because I'm wanting to have this service. And we're like, yeah, we don't do that.
Shut up and take my money. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, right. But see, here's the thing. So this is an interesting litmus test for what sort of sales engagement you're going to have. And this is something that I did a while back when I was trying to buy a pretty big software tool for the company that I was at the time. And the vendor space was very competitive. And what I would do is I would go to their website and read all the features and capabilities that their tool had. And then I would make up a feature set that sounded kind of similar that wasn't listed anywhere on the page. And I'd say like, hey, I heard that you guys do blah, blah, blah. And you do that, right?
That is genius.
And well done, sir.
Man.
I will tell you this. Just for the sake of science, people who lied and said, yes, we will do that. I said, okay, you know what? We're going to carry you through to the next round of the selection. And they fell flat on their faces because they were complete hucksters. Yeah. So do things like that. And I will be the first. I cannot take credit for that idea. That's something that was a little gem given to me years ago by Josh Wright. I was talking with him about problems that I was having getting good vendors. And he suggested that you do like put some honey traps in your RFP or in your vendor engagement. And the one that he said that he did that's very telling is they were looking for some Wi-Fi solution. And he said, by the way, there's this new emergent standard 802.11xo, totally made up. And they'd be like, oh yeah, we got that. And he'd be like, oh, good job. And so feel free to, game the system, because why not? They're gaming it at you.
Yeah, very nice.
That's genius. And I think you're right. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it's a smaller company.
Yeah, probably.
We kind of do the same thing. And it's, I can I can talk to whoever I want in the company, because you're at a certain size where you can do that. When you're like one of the giant security companies, the salespeople have no idea. I mean, they just crank them out, right?
Yep.
You know, it's a sales engineer that went through a class that is just cookie cutter for everybody else that, you know, has to sell that product. They don't actually know how to implement it or how it works. In most cases. I mean, there's definitely some that do, but
Yep. So I work on both sides of it. I have to deal with things like vendor assessments, third-party assessments, and things like that.
You poor bastard.
I know.
By the way, I realize this is not the standard constituency of the podcast audience, but if you write a vendor assessment, look at the damn questions you're sending people. If you can't answer them yourself, stop.
How do we get to those
Mic
people?
drop.
Like,
I'm
how?
I've actually added some things inside of third-party questionnaires just to see if they've actually looked at them. You know, like the brown M&Ms that Ozzy put in his contract and stuff back in the day. You know, and you'd be surprised. I've never had throw or blowback from that, because nobody looks at them if they're too long. You know,
they're horrible. They like, we get them all day, every day, and there's ones where, like, what's weird is we've kind of started a collection of them, and we use a fuzzing hash to see like how similar they are. It's really weird. We found like there's 7 families of these vendor assessments, and people just copy paste them and they modify them slightly, but it's like there's 7 main seed ones. And what's really sad is from time to time we see that people kind of merge them, and there'll be like question 1 is this, and then question just like, well, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah, they actually have companies out there that make questionnaires for those kinds of things. And yeah, I mean, we bought one with the idea that we were going to give that out to customers every time we go to a sales engagement. They would, you know, have, you know, we'd be able to show them our questionnaire, but they want to use their own. And then, of course, now we have to have a bank of questions from various other sales or other people to, you know, cover what we said or what they wanted. So yeah, it ends up being that way. So well, you know, we grilled you for about 20 minutes. So what we got from that was, not all salespeople are bad. Think about maybe creating some fake requirements and seeing if, you know, knowingly, if they'll actually, you know, agree to, you know, cutting tomatoes, or, you know, naming, you know, helping you give birth to your firstborn, that kind of thing. You know, it would also help if you knew what you wanted before you reached out to these people.
Well, or no, you know, the other thing is, be honest. You know, if you need help, like figuring out what you need, just say, hey, you know, we're having problems here. What are some tools that could help? Now, if you're scared that they're going to take you for a ride, what you might want to do, and this is something, this doesn't happen terribly often, but we do it enough that we have a process for it, is we'll have companies come to us and say, hey, we need XYZ technologies. Could you help us assess them? You won't get a sale, but we will pay you time and materials to help us figure out what the evaluation criteria are. And then we'll build up the, you know, well, here's your use cases, here's what works, and then help them figure that out. Because what's the worst case scenario, and thankfully we have a really gifted implementation crew here at Binary Defense, but every now and then we have people that are trying to play this game where they, our SIM, we charge by events per second. And they're like, yeah, we've got like 5 servers. And we're like, really? You're a multinational corporation and you've only got 5 servers? And they're like, yeah, and they're hardly used at all. You know, hoping that they can get this super low cost SIM. And then when they like turn everything on, they light it up and it goes totally like Tango uniform in 30 seconds. And then they're like, oh, geez, your SIM solution doesn't stack up. And you're just like, what are you trying to do? You're not serving anybody by like trying to scrape in at the bottom of the barrel. Or you know what? If you are, at least have the internal honesty and intestinal fortitude to admit it. And then that way you can play that game a little more honestly.
Sure. Yeah, because capacity planning, if you're going to spend $300,000 for a sim and you actually need to spend $500,000, you're just going to end up having to retool at the end anyway. So being honest to the salespeople is also it's a two-way direction. The salespeople should be as honest as they can to the customer and vice versa.
Well, you really, in InfoSec, all we teach people is trust but verify. You need to come up with ways of verifying what the salespeople are telling you. So, like, if they're saying, yeah, we can build you a solution that does X, Y, Z, then say, you know what, give me some proof that you've done this in the past. Or if you've not done this particular thing, like in detail, show us how you would do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only other thing I would probably mention is if somebody asks you for, let's say we want to know a client or a customer that uses your product already in their experience. Actually give them a useful customer, because we had this run-in with a solution where we talked to this guy and he's like, oh yeah, I just looked over the assessment. I didn't actually help with the implementation or any of that stuff. And we're like, well, okay, so you can't tell us if you actually liked the product or not. No, I don't even work at the company anymore that they wanted me to talk to you about. I was like, oh, okay, great. So, okay, all right.
What is an awkward moment? I'll take odd interactions with potential customers for 400, Alex.
Oh yeah, that was not good. So, Mr. Betcher, Ms. Berlin, do you have any other questions about this segment?
Well, Mick, do you like those customers that are kind of a pain in the butt, but in a good way? Like they really test you. They test the product. They tell you where it's going wrong, and they know what they're doing. Or is it like, man, these guys just put us to our limit and they're not worth it? Or, I was expecting, 10 tickets to be formulated a day for these guys, and they're giving me 15 or 20, and it's just not paying off.
Well, so the only time that folks really so there's two classes of customers that can be a little tricky for us to deal with, and that is one where so because our engagements are longer term, we look for a good fit. Like if it becomes really apparent that you're looking for a checkbox, we try to let people know that, and gently so, that we might not be a good fit, because there's a very real cost in terms of morale to our SOC when they're entering tickets and really busting butt all hours of the day and night, and like the tickets just languish and they eventually age out and auto close. Like that, man, that has to really stink to see that. So that's a class of customer that we try to avoid and educate as much as possible. The ones that are the most fun, though, are the ones that do what you just said, where they're like, hey, I did an Nmap scan with these really weird command flags. Did you see it? And we'll be like, well, you know what? We can't, because you don't have a tap here. Like, let's put a tap here and we can have that discussion again. Or maybe like, hey, we saw this, and they'll be like, oh, good job. You saw, this take place. And so it's kind of fun. The thing that really blows my mind is we have these, we offer it up to all our clients where it's a weekly meeting to like just jam, like a working jam session on, here's your solution, and here's where the state of it is. Like, what's the next story you want to tell? What's the next thing you need out of it? And almost all of our customers take us up on that, but from time to time we have people that just don't want to, and you can't force them to. Maybe they're happy, but it really weirds me out, because basically you got a mechanic that's saying, hey, let's hot rod this thing, let me know what you want to do, and they're like, no, I'm good. And
The other thing I'd like to hear is something negative come from the sales guy about what your stuff doesn't do. You know, it seems like every product will, our product is awesome. We're in the upper right quadrant of the Gartners, and then we're circular, whatever in the Forrester bit, and and I'm like, really? I don't care.
I'll tell you one straight up that we always caution folks is whenever we're doing scoping, there's the two things that a SIM you need to allocate for when you're building that out is how much data is coming in and how long do you hold it? And everybody thinks, well, we're just going to collect everything and let the magic SIM do its number crunching and life will be great. And the problem of that is, that sounds all well and good, but I mean, I don't think people fully appreciate what a fire hose the Windows event log is.
Oh my gosh.
And we've had people come in and they say, they're like, hey, I want to consume all Windows event logs for not just my servers, but every single desktop. And I'm like,
nope.
Oh my God. Like what? No. Like, no. And they're like, no, you're the sales guy. You'll be happy with this. And I'm like, no, like, I don't want to make a bid where I have to use scientific notation on what you're going to be paying.
8 to the 32nd power or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Exactly.
We had one, and this was, it was a misunderstanding on our part. I'll own it. I misunderstood what they were asking, but I came back with a bid, and like I knew something was wrong because when I sent the email that had the bid in it, like 5 minutes later, my cell phone rang directly, and they're like, Mick, what the hell is this? And I'm like, well, it's the bid. And they're like, you quoted us for 1 year of hot data. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we need 30 days. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Way different.
That'll cost a lot less.
Take that number divided by 12.
Yeah, it was not a red letter day for me. So, to your point, I think every person who's being like really forthright with it should be able to say, like, here's the things that this particular solution or this consulting engagement or whatever, where we really rock. And then here's the things where the warts are, and just know that going in.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay.
Maybe it's a good thing I don't have a sales quota, though, if I've got that approach.
If only there was a tool that could help people with Windows event logs.
Yeah, I don't know. Perhaps almost as if you were a doctor of sorts, a log doctor.
That's an amazing idea.
Somebody should come up with something.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes. I give up. I'm done.
log-md.com.
Come on, Break. You're a sales guy too. I mean, just check out this, right?
Okay, yeah.
Every day.
All right. I sell a podcast. I don't sell what I work for because I get jack squat if I send $100 million contract to them or a $4 million contract. I get jack squat. So there's no impetus for me to be a salesperson for my own company.
Well, thanks for listening to Breaking Down Security. We have a Patreon.
No, that's for my show. All right.
Is this where I plug the book too?
Right.
Hey, can we have Real Big Fish sell out as the music for
Sell
the show?
out to me, oh yeah. Sell out to me tonight. Record companies always give me lots of money. Oh. Yes, great. Everybody is selling something to someone. It's
Yay, capitalism.
Yay, capitalism. Yep. All right. Let's get off the sales thing.
Now, Mick, hang on. Mick,
okay.
You mentioned cringe factor at a sales conference that you went to. Can you give me an idea of what made you cringe?
Well, so there were multiple cringes. So one of the things that was really shocking and a little shameful was we had about, I want to say it was just under a dozen. Like it was a statistically improbable number of people in a row that came up to us and asked if we were in a certain location geometrically that may or may not have been magical. They were asking us if we were on these, reports or buy guides. And I said, well, no, we're not. And they said, well, we only work with those sorts of crowd, and that's all that we work. Now, the thing that was weird was at this conference, the name of the person and where they worked were both the same size, so I could very clearly see where they had been working or were at. And every single one of them had been breached in the last 12 months. And I just literally was like, yeah, awesome. So that was a cringe.
Wow. Okay.
That a lot of salespeople listen to themselves or even understand what they're saying a lot of times, because if you say the word turnkey, you instantly have lost all credibility to me. Yep. You're dead to me. Yep. There's practically nothing you can do that will redeem yourself in my eyes, because there's no such thing as a magic bullet. Anybody who's saying that is just selling you something and not much else.
Are those terms that they would use with C-levels, and they think that kind of terminology works everywhere?
I don't even know if so. I hate to say this. I'm sure they're nice people in the real world, but there are some salespeople out there that are basically oxygen converting forms of carbon that are human spam. Wow. And they just have that thing, turnkey compliance and compliance type terminology, and they're saying what they're saying, and there's not a whole lot of gray matter that's being engaged there. So I don't know if they're saying it to just C-level or anyone that'll hear them.
Yeah. I feel like those are the salespeople that get cookie cuttered and cranked out, and they hop from security vendor to security vendor, and maybe not even just security, yep. Storage, whatever vendor, just because they use the same tactics over and over. They don't work here, they'll go somewhere else and repeat.
Is that because the product sells itself instead of you having to sell the product? Yeah. So they just go through the script and go, okay, da-da-da-da-da, you're going to buy this big suite of stuff anyway because it has a
huge name.
Yeah.
And it's in the magic quadrant. Yeah.
Oh, are we going on the quadrant rant again?
I don't want to. I actually would like to find somebody from the quadrant people to come on so that I can give them the waterboarding treatment that I want to give them.
Oh, that'd be great.
Find the Anton Chuvakin or somebody like that to come on and go, why are you the way that you are? And I hate so much the things you are.
Bad person.
So, yes.
That's Amanda, I'm with you. You need to do the Samir Nainajar from Office Space. You are a very, very bad man.
I hate
and just
so
walk
much
away.
You are. Yeah. All right. Enough sales. Finally, enough sales. All right. So you are doing some training. You talked about that. You give regular training with your devs and stuff, but you're doing it on packet analysis. You're working with Adam Crompton, who we've had on from InGuardians. Is he still at InGuardians? Yeah. Doing some PowerShell stuff. So maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the atom bombing stuff, or some of the stuff you're going to be training on in the near future.
Well, so we're continuing to build out the class that we did with DerbyCon, and to all the folks who are running conferences. If you're looking for folks to do trainings on PowerShell, Adam and I would love to talk to you.
Selling.
One of the things that's fun, that's really weird, and I guess we're starting to really appreciate better, is that PowerShell is a very nice platform to dive into some odd API. And so it's like a lot of people have been focusing on extending .NET, and there's a lot of fun to be done there. That's going to be a very fruitful place of research. But there's some other older API that Adam and I have been doing some work on, and hopefully are going to be starting to release some tools on that.
So why should we use PowerShell now that Ubuntu or the Bash subsystem is available for Windows? Is that is it? I know the PowerShell is powerful, but if you can hamper the PowerShell stuff and still get work done with the Bash side, why do that?
Well, so for starters, PowerShell is by default. If you've got Windows 7 or above, you've got PowerShell. So there's that. It's a common, for the first time, it's a real common platform that allows you to very easily build up attacks and do some really interesting things. Prior to that, there was WMIC, but it was very clunky and hard to work with. With PowerShell, you've got a much, much richer platform to play with. The other thing is that PowerShell still can do things that at least in my experience, that with the Linuxification, for lack of a better term, of Windows, you still have a lower level access to the different APIs, and you can do things that you can't yet do, at least as far as I know.
Okay. I mean, and also, I guess since the Bash stuff is so very new, there could be vulnerabilities inside of Bash that could be affecting only the window. It's a PDF actually. I found this just a couple days ago, but there's a Bash completion vulnerability where they're not sanitizing the inputs properly, and you can actually do tab completion that will cause code execution. It's a little difficult. It's not like all breaking and stuff, but one of my friends who I did CSEC East with last night was wondering if it affected Ubuntu, the Bash on Windows, because might be another way of engaging that kind of thing. So so you also, I saw on Facebook, because you and I are Facebook buddies, you were working on this thing called an attack and defend matrix. And when it first came out, I thought you were talking like the matrix, like chain
ones and zeros?
Attack system. Now, we talked about it on another podcast. It had to do with like method by which people do risk analysis or something like that. But it's not that, is it? It's something different.
No, this is a bit different. So I've been kind of kicking around for quite some time, like how to better illustrate how defense is stacking up. And earlier in my career, I worked at a very large bank where we needed to show how our defensive layers were working against different offensive attacks. And the tools were very crude, like the scoring was pretty rough. And while we had some metrics that we could build, they weren't terribly repeatable. And there wasn't enough science behind it. So I've been kind of on a long, but not, I'll be honest, I kind of let it be a back burner thing. So I didn't really invest a whole lot of time and effort. And shortly before I went to work with Black Hills InfoSec, Strand and his company released a interesting model that it was, here's an attack and here's where it got detected. And it was just like a binary thing. We did a known malware and it got caught by antivirus. We encoded that malware and it bypassed the antivirus. But the thing that, and it took me a while to realize, the thing where I wasn't satisfied with it was that it didn't properly accommodate or articulate the layers of defense that you have, or at least you should have. And so that's where this kind of started building up. And at ShmooCon Epilogue, I was invited to submit for the RFP, which I did, not RFP, RFP, and CFP, and they accepted it, and I called it the purple teaming because it was red versus blue, and we were talking about that, and I used the PTES framework for the attacks, or if you're looking at the attack and defend matrix that is out on Twitter or out on Facebook, column A was the PTES attacks, and the defensive fabrics are the different components, the different columns on out. And Chris Gates was in the talk, Carnal Ownage, and
Right.
he made mention. He's like, yeah, I've been kind of playing around with this, and I was like, word, all right, like let's chat. And he said, have you heard of MITRE's ATTACK? And I was like, no, not really. And he was like, yeah, you should check it out. And I was like, okay, and so dropped that in, and it was like one of those things of where you're like, oh, you put chocolate in my peanut butter, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. And I thought that it like worked really well, and it makes for an interesting story. Right now, I'll be honest, it's a bit big. So when you open up this spreadsheet, understand that this is a very comprehensive, or at least the goal is to be a very comprehensive scoring tool so that you can see a class of attacks. Here's what this type of attack is, and here's where we would expect it to get caught. And if it doesn't get caught, you got a problem. You're paying money for something that isn't effective.
Yeah. So how do you do the scoring? What does it start like a 0 to 10, 0 to 100, and how do the different controls drop the score or increase the score?
Mm-hmm. So the way the score works is at the end of the assessment, you actually want a 0. The way it works is you fill in the drop downs. For each control, there's 2 columns. There's the expected capability. So like if you've got a firewall and you're expecting it to prevent an attack, what would happen is you then test and see, does the firewall prevent it? If you think it would prevent, but it doesn't, that's -1 point. And so basically you lose points for failing to do something that it should do.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is a couple people have been playing with this, and they said that they actually had accrued positive points where they thought that something wouldn't be effective, but it was. And so having a positive score is also kind of a bad thing because you're giving like not enough love to the security tool. You don't think that it does as well as it actually does.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, it breaks it down to not only engagement info, but I'm looking at scorecard matrix. So, network-based defensive controls. It's got next-gen host protections. That sounds very markety-like. HIPS, antivirus. Got antivirus in there. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, everybody's getting it. I even have DLP. Come on, I'm giving everybody a shot.
That is true. That is true. Well, I mean, it's the layered defense, right? So, you know, antivirus will catch something where DLP will catch something where your IPS and IDS will catch something. So, yeah, that's very cool. It's quite
comprehensive.
Yes, that's the word. That's
well, and that's one thing I want to give a shout out to is, you know, this thing as it exists would not exist were it not for the comments and feedback, you know, like folks saying, hey, put this on Google Drive, you know, so folks can comment on it, use the attack matrix. I've added columns based off of input from folks. The idea is I want the community to really kick this thing, make it strong so that it can work and be effective.
Sure.
There's going to be a lot of I want to keep on building off of this. I would love to make it so that we can start making pen tests be a little bit, you know, better. Like hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. But I'm gonna once I get to official version 1.0, I'll start chatting with the folks at PTES and see if this might be something that they'd be interested in folding in, putting up somewhere for folks to consume. I don't know. But the idea is basically we need to do a better job of understanding how our defense actually stands up to the attacks. And one of the things, I'll tell you this was kind of a surprise for me. In working through the matrix, I'm not completely done, but host-based and network-based configuration is one of the standout controls that you can do. If you harden your box and configure it appropriately, you are going to stand a much better chance of somebody who's got a misconfigured box with all the bells and whistles and the security sprinkles put on top.
So I noticed I didn't see anything having to do with active defense. I know Mr. Strand is a big fan of the active defenses.
Yep, and, I am too.
I didn't see that in here on the sheet. Is that something that can actually be used to help, drop the score, or would that be something that you would put in after you've drop the score as low as it can get?
So I don't know. Like, there's been a couple, and that's actually a really good comment. I've not heard anybody talk about active defense with this, and let's be in touch on that. The main thing, though, is there's a couple other things that folks have talked about that don't really fit terribly well. Like, you can't. I don't know yet how to put social engineering attacks into this sort of a matrix,
Right.
but they need to be captured, maybe not in this matrix, but something else. Like maybe active defense is another category or another workbook, that you can build up. I don't know.
Well, not only social engineering, but like phishing too.
Well,
tar
I would see
physical security.
Yeah, well, and you joke about the physical security, but I have a draft of it where I have like one of the controls are fences, gates, bollards, what sort of pick resistant locks you have, closed circuit cameras, things like that.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you've got RFC on it right now. You're commenting. It looks like there's about a dozen people or more on there right now, just poking around and looking at it. So can you toy with the values and everything, or is it just comment only?
Well, so if you want to play with it on your own, you can. The way it's set up, you can copy it and make your own local copy and play with it.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason I did that is I don't want people to grief it. There used to be a really cool thing that Mubix did years ago on if you found that you could do command injection or you had shell on a box but you didn't know much about it, you had a list of here's the command line things you can do to learn about the environment. And it lasted for a couple months, and then like people just trashed those docs, and that's not cool. Don't pee in the pool.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Okay. So where are you going to be in the next few months?
Well, I'm going to be all over the place. The big thing that I'm pimping now is that in March, at the end of March, I will be at the SANS Security Summit in Orlando, Florida.
Oh.
So if you want to go get your geek on in the House of Mouse, that's the place to do it.
They had that there last year too, didn't they?
It's in, I believe it's March 19th is when some of the pre-classes begin. SANS is now moving to a thing where they have like small 2-day classes before the actual main event.
Mm-hmm.
And
because I'm
I'll be
I'm taking my whole family to Disney the last week in March. So
I'm
like, maybe if it was the same time, I could do both.
Well, I will be there until March 27th.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm scheduled to go to San Diego for SANS Security West in May. I noticed you're not going to be there, sir. Teaching. Are you going to be there proper?
So I don't know if that's on the calendar or not. I was there in October. So I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking 504 with Mr. Strand actually. So
that class is a hoot.
I've got a coworker of mine going with me, so we're gonna tear it up with Mr. Strand in class there. So that'll be good.
All right.
So
do yourself a serious favor and have a lot of fun with the Netcat labs. Oh man, like that one. It's a weird lab in that a lot of people are like, this is kind of weird and a neat trick. Mm-hmm. But man, you can do so much fun and bizarre stuff with that.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll definitely do some research prior to. So. All right. So, Mr. Betcher, Ms. Berlin, do you have any other questions for Mr. Douglas here, this team?
Well, I just had a comment on the spreadsheet. I'm not sure if you have like a gateway protection, and we mentioned phishing and stuff. So like an email gateway would kind of mitigate some of that. So yeah.
That's an awesome catch. Yeah. Yeah, that's an awesome one. We'll have to chat about that.
Yeah, because I was thinking like spam listing or tar pitting, that kind of thing as well. So
yep.
Yeah, and then you have some that can test attachments for malware or other blacklisted items. things like that.
Where's the one that does log configuring? I don't see anything for that. So they probably don't have it. It probably doesn't help. So, that probably doesn't
Wait,
help.
what now? What kind of trolling are you doing? You should note that there is log monitoring for both the network and the host.
I see it. Yeah, it's right there. And
And
file
you know what?
integrity monitoring. Yeah.
Just for that, little Barb, I am going to put LogMD in on the host-based one right now, live. We're doing it live.
Wow. Oh my
There he
goodness.
is.
That's
Look at that.
filthy. So much wrong. So much nepotism going on here.
Well, you know what? Love goes both ways, baby.
That's true. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, where would Mr. Douglas be found on the internet if they wanted to discuss the document or whatever?
Well, the easiest place to hit me at would be on Twitter at Better Safety Net.
Better Safety Net. Okay. And if you're looking for an MSSP, we'll give you a 15-second spiel. Go ahead and make it thing.
Check out Binary Defense. We give a damn. We're passionate, and we want to help.
We give a damn. Is that on your business cards?
No, it should be, though.
Oh, that'd be great.
We give a damn. All right.
I want that on mine.
Speaking of that, we do need to get you some business cards.
Right.
Ms. Berlin, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to discuss InfoSec and MSSP related stuff, or your upcoming book that's coming out soon, upcomingly?
At InfoSister, pretty much everywhere.
Okay. Mr. Betcher, how about you if they wanted to, talk about log, configuration in Windows with a certain product that you may or may not know about?
Yeah, just go to log-md.com. Remember the dash. Otherwise, you'll get some proctologists in Wisconsin.
Which
incidentally, we tried to buy LogMD, and I think his quote was "Go shove it up your ass" or something like that.
Really?
He's a proctologist.
He's sticking in his swim lane.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait a minute. He's Log MD, so he's the log doctor, and he's a proctologist. That guy is filthy.
So yeah, and catch me up on Twitter. I'm at BetcherPwned.
Very cool. All right. Yep. So we're on Twitter. The podcast is at Breaksec, BRAKESEC. You can follow me, Brian Brake, at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. I turned off the Facebook page because it really is not doing a bit of good. So there's no more Facebook page for the podcast. I may kill the LinkedIn group as well because we don't use it. We're on Slack a lot, and we're actually doing quite a bit on Slack. We're doing our CTF club, which I was remiss in the session that happened 2 weeks ago because that's when this one actually came out. Miss Amanda's doing our evening session. I'm doing the morning session at 9 a.m. because I'm trying to get all the time zones possible.
The last one went really well too.
Yeah, we're doing the over the wire stuff, and that's going really well. I am not good at things like this, and this is definitely a learning experience for me. So we have a lot of people getting in there and getting active and stuff. Mr. Douglas, if you get bored, you can feel free to join us as well. So. We're about to. I need to schedule the last chapter of our book, our Gary McGraw book, Software Security Building Security In. We're doing a book club, so that'll be coming up. We'll be doing another book club session. We have a job board on there, and we have a number of different channels talking about all kinds of stuff. So we get on there, and then we're you can come in and see Miss Hanners. Amanda's on there. Mr. Betcher's never on there. We have. He's too busy developing and stuff, but
it works if you say his name 3 times though.
That's right. I forgot. If you can summon him that way with your yeah. So you can join us on the Slack there. We're at breaksec.signup.team. So if you go there and the bot will let you in. So as long as you're having fun, then you can get a lot of good information out of it, and we have a lot of good people sharing a lot of great information. So. Hack in the Box is still going on. I forgot to mention that the last couple weeks. The early bird tickets are no longer available, but you can still get tickets for classes and to attend the trainings. If they haven't sold out yet, you can go to dang it all. You can go to conference.hitb.org/hitbsecconf 2016 AMS, and that's in Amsterdam, man. I'd love to go to Amsterdam. I mean, seriously. 2017 AMS. My bad. It's in the show notes. Check that out. So, well, I mean, that was it for this week. Anybody else got some closing thoughts or statements?
Thanks, Mick. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. This was fun. Very cathartic to get this off my chest.
Yes, me too. It was very, very useful. So, Mr. Mick, if you ever want to come back on, I always say that, and it's never not the truth. So,
okay. Well, just say my name 3 times, and I'll appear.
And then you just show up. You don't even need the invite.
That's right. You just drop some knowledge on us like you normally do. So, that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Have a great week, and we will talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And we're clear. Whew. Oh my goodness.
That was fun.
Yes, it
Man,
was.
I always love coming on this show.
Do you? Yeah, I know you
I
do.
do.
That's
What?
cool. I love you, man.
What do I gain?
I love you.
Man, y'all are a bunch of cheated Diddy McJadersons.
I was hoping your boss would be hanging around so he could walk by pantsless or something, like he normally does.
He's I forget where he's at. Like it really is to the point where we need like a geolocation site, like whereisdavekennedy.com.
You should get like a fat head when he's not in the office. That way,
well,
feel like he's awake.
they had that thing a couple Derby cons ago where it was Dave, like the
statue.
Yeah,
the hologram Dave.
The hologram. It had his real face on it too.
So like for a while, hologram Dave was up in the 3rd floor, which is the employee break room.
That's awesome.
And it was really creepy because like people would we were like hacking the system, and so for a while there, because like there was that goat scene that he had where he was petting the goat.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody had that like frozen on the thing for a while, so you would like go up to get like a snacky cake or whatever, and there's Goat Dave, and it's like
yeah.
So at DerbyCon, you guys said you were hiring. Are you guys still hiring and for any positions?
Yeah. We're hiring. So yes, and yes.
Do you take remote workers?
We are hiring remote.
Do tell.
We've added 10 people in the last month or so. 2 months.
Somebody say something about that.
2 months. Because we've got some additional devs for the Vision product line. The only work that we won't do remote is SOC. Like that, just until we stand up a second SOC. That one.
Yeah, that doesn't add up.
Don't you want to follow the sun? I mean,
Hey, our SOC's remote.
I'm not wearing any socks.
I am.
My feet were cold.
Oh,
we don't want to see your feet.
What? No.
I love it.